Yo, Savory, my Rangers got smoked last night.
Yo, guess what, bro?
What?
You won't believe this.
What happened?
The World Series started. I had no idea.
I don't understand you, bro. I just talked about the World
No
Series
idea.
yesterday.
I'm like, yo, Macho said something about World Series, but I didn't know it was on. That's how you know I'm not even, yo.
You don't even like tap into anything sports, huh? You're totally against sports at this point, huh?
Yeah.
You don't like how it got political?
Not even. Like, I stopped really keeping up with sports because I got more involved in politics and culture. So, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? So
got
it's
it,
kind
got
of
it,
like
got it,
threw
got
me
it.
away. I just felt like, but I'll
Like,
still
I'm
watch
busy. I'm too
basketball, but
busy for this. I'm too busy for this.
not even. I still have fun, but I didn't have a TV for a while too. I was house happing, and you know, what I'm saying, so so
Oh, you didn't have a TV for a minute?
yeah, we still don't have a TV at the crib. I don't even watch
Really?
TV. Yeah,
You don't need TV in the internet world. What's wrong with
yeah.
you?
Like I guess we got YouTube, so it's not like I'm starving myself or some crazy discipline.
Exactly.
We got YouTube, so we good.
Yeah, I was a little concerned there for a second because I don't have cable either. I had cable when we moved into the apartment,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't stand Optimum. I really like Verizon Fios.
Yeah, you told me. That's funny.
Yeah, I really, dude, I swear by Verizon. Anyways, I can't stand the Optimum network or whatever, so I cancel it, and we're only on the internet. So I don't have regular TV or anything like that. So I'm even more of a deplorable
Mm-hmm.
as as they let's open up this show. Let's get this thing rolling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello and welcome to another live broadcast. I'm Macho, that's Savory, and together we are Drinks with a Nobody. Be sure to follow us on Twitch, MachoFix88, and at Savory_edition. Be sure to also follow us on Twitter. Same handles, you can find us right there. Hey Savory, how's TikTok?
Yo, come on, man. You know the vibes. I'm live right now. TikTok is booming. Whoever's on TikTok,
is
I'm gonna be
booming
here for the next. Let's give TikTok another 5-10 minutes. After this, I am off. Check our YouTube. We are gonna be
Come and engage.
Come and engage. Comment. We live on our Twitch, Macho Fix 88, live on my Twitch, Savory Edition. And also, most importantly, we're trying to funnel people through our YouTube to give you valuable content. Drinks with a Nobody. Again, Drinks with a Nobody. Come join us, comment, come criticize us, come love us, do all kind of
We're
things, man.
here. We're here. And as you just heard, in case you miss any of our previous broadcasts, go to YouTube, type in "Drinks with a Nobody," hit subscribe, click that notification bell so you never miss a thing. My question to you, Savory, is why in the world do we want any kind of audience? What kind of audience do we want?
Let me talk to all the haters, the lovers, the hustlers, the whites, the blacks, the Republicans, the Democrats. Let me talk to all of y'all for a second. Right here, what we're doing, man, we just having good conversation. You know what I'm saying? We're having good conversation. We're talking about culture, politics. All ideas are welcome. We might have our ideas. Me and Macho might not see eye to eye, but if you have ideas, you have thoughts, you don't feel like you can freely share. If you have things inside of you haven't really let out, come to our channel, come comment. Even if we disagree, you're still welcome. Even if we
Absolutely.
agree, you're still welcome. It's a channel
Excellent
for
point.
everybody to be involved, man. So,
That
that's
is an
it right there.
excellent answer. And do yourselves a favor. Don't come on to Drinks with a Nobody and don't get a beverage. That's what we are. So go in that fridge, grab your drink of choice, sit back, relax, and prepare to engage. I got my coffee here this evening.
Coffee. I got my, I got my weird drinks every so often. If you like me, you must have something up. I got some juice with a ginger shot in here. I don't know. I just I don't know, man.
And if anyone watching, tell us what you're drinking. I'm curious.
Word.
So, Savory, what do we got for today? Do we have a hot lineup?
Yo, we got a hot lineup. I'm gonna give an overview. I'm gonna give a quick overview. I'm gonna leave the specifics in suspense. But we got American freedom. We got some Obama talk. We got some taxes, and we just got some thoughts about America, where it stands, where it's going. Come join this ride with us. We do have a lot to talk about.
So essentially,
As
we
always,
just
we're
want
gonna have
to
fun with this.
we want to react to some of the video clips that we're going to propose here, or
As
we're going to
always.
show, because I believe it's better to commentate on the experts. Us
Mhm.
nobodies just taking our chance and our shot in the dark at some of these ideologies. So what clip should we start with today, Savory? I'm curious.
Man, let's go into that. Let's hit the big picture of American freedom, man. You got anything on America perspective? You want to start in the big picture?
I was thinking, yeah, actually, yeah, David
We
Cross.
were thinking of Bill Maher, but it just came to mind, big picture, Bill. But anyway, we'll do, man. We are live, ready to
Well,
roll.
there was a video clip here that actually not a video clip, a 12-minute video that went viral.
Mm,
That was done by David Cross. He's an
yeah,
actor. I
I think
haven't seen David
that's where I was
Cross.
going. I'm like, I just think I'll give us the big picture. So yeah, all right.
I haven't seen David Cross in a movie in quite some time. Every time I look at him, I just think, grab my strong hand from Scary Movie. Anyways, he has some pretty harsh criticism, if you can notice by the title here, "Why America Sucks at Everything." So let's take a look at this.
Let's see what he's talking about.
Not just in the world, but in the history of the world. It's really hard to comprehend just how rich we are. We have 18 million people who are millionaires. American households.
We have 18 million people who are millionaires.
I'm sure no country comes close to that.
18 million?
Yeah, that's crazy. Like
I think he just said that so matter of factly, like it's like, yeah. We have 18
he
million.
wants to get out the facts out the way so he doesn't have to deal with them later. But he's playing games right now. He's playing games right
own
now.
about $100 trillion in wealth, an almost unthinkable amount of money. Okay, so America is the richest country ever. But there's a curious paradox. Most Americans actually have a much worse standard of living than people who live in poorer countries like
Here we go.
Germany or Finland or Britain. But
they have to bring up those typical
All right.
countries, right?
I hate to stop this so fast and really give my thoughts here, but I have to. I wanted to go through this. Macho, I really did, man. I'm sitting here patient. And let me say this. How are you defined? This is going to be the big question that people got to keep in mind. He's making a video criticizing America, right? And then
Right.
every time I hear standard of living, I automatically have to think that you're a little bit crazy. Because if you travel to other countries, what kind of standard of living are you comparing it to? You're comparing, right? This is my last story. You ready for this? I'm going to bring it full loop. You know what you're comparing it to? The American dollars you get here and how you can use it overseas. That's what makes me laugh. Go over there and
Oh, okay,
how you're
okay.
living. Like, standard of living falls short that argument because you're somebody who you're thinking from the American dollar perspective. You're not
And
thinking
there,
of it. You're not
and
going
there's
to
a
school,
there's a
getting a
lot of
job.
things. There's a lot of things that's kind of disingenuous, right? If you can't compare New York City to an island off of Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the scenery is beautiful. It may be relaxing to someone who's from New York and say, "Hey, I want a vacation here. I would love living here." We've heard references of that,
Mhm.
but can we compare holistically New York City to Jamaica? Right? There are a lot of things, and should we be doing this? Should we be actually comparing countries this way? Is this helpful? Now, I will add that at the beginning of this video, there is a lot of statements and references David Cross has said that a lot of people have said. America's the greatest country, it's the best country in the world, and this, that, and a third, and you would hear it time and time and time again. And the reason why that's been brought up, this is not a new phenomenon. This is not a Trumplican idea. This has been around for a long time. That America has been the beacon of the world in so many different facets, and we're going to get into why America is the beacon of the world. We have some of the video clips, but I think it's disingenuous to compare countries and especially standards of living because everyone has different cultural aspects to bring to the table. America's so multi-diverse. There's so many cultural clashes. There's so many cultural clashes, right, Savory? I mean, think about it. If you you're in a place like I don't know, let's go from New York City to another big city. Let's look at like Chicago. There are different demographics there. So even in comparing the two cities, the standards of living would probably be different. So when we're talking about standard of living, what exactly are we talking about? Is it only about money? You know, I think your mic is muted.
That's the big question right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious.
How can that be? That shouldn't make any sense. Well, here's the shitty deal. Americans get significantly worse services because our tax dollars don't fund them.
And there we are. Here's another point. Do Americans get worse services because our tax dollars don't fund them?
I would say we get worse services because our tax dollars do fund them.
Explain that. Explain that, please. Uncap that.
Everything you have when you have a poor experience when it comes to the DMV, when you have the post office, right? When you have all these shitty experiences all over America, actually they get the most funding in federal government. So the federal funding at a highest level, even our education, people like to criticize the education, but our education system on the public sector gets more funding year by year, and it continues to go up without a standard, right? You can't let that fly in a business. You'll go out of business.
And it's disingenuous with the school analogy that you brought up. I saw a New York Times, I forgot which one covered this, or I think it was the Post, made a reference to how much actual funding goes into one kid. So one kid costs approximately, I would say, $30,000 a year.
Yeah, I think that
to go to public
I
school.
couldn't remember the number. That sounds correct. Something
But that's disingenuous because that 30,000 is not going to that kid.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
There's so many.
They're saying
arms
it's
to this.
30,000 to fund it, everything that kid needs, and from the house, from the place, from the playground, whatever, So that's how they look at it.
And does it really fund that kid? Because again, you're paying the salary of the teacher.
Let the results speak. And we have a horrible
That's true.
educational system in our public sector, and it's tax
And it's funded by tax.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I'm on the fence with what he just said there. I agree with you. I agree with him. Anything tax related is usually shitty. I would have to say it's usually shitty. So, and in America, I can only speak for America. I can't speak for another country.
Yeah.
So, of course, our services are worse, and thus we enjoy less happy lives than people who live in the aforementioned countries. Not that difficult a concept to conceive, really.
Yeah, I'm here.
You get what you pay for.
We don't enjoy less happy lives because of that. We do enjoy less happy lives because it's a very individualistic culture. When you go to Dominican Republic, where my parents are from, and other places, you have more of a community, you have more of a family unit. Here, we emphasize individualism, which I think is the flaw of it, right? It's almost like a give and take every country has. This country
But doesn't
doesn't
doesn't freedom come with individuality?
yeah, for sure. But then it doesn't emphasize culture and community. Why? Because you don't need somebody. You know, in America's the only you don't have the luxury in other countries to be like, I don't need that person. You really don't. You need one another. In America, you do have the luxury to get your own job, get your own place, and ignore everybody else around you. You can't do that in many other countries.
Got
So,
it.
you know, which
Got
it
it.
leads us to a trap, and we're less happy for it, I believe. So
Are there more communal living in DR? Like, do people live in the same, like, let's say, same houses or same
oh,
apartments?
same houses, same blocks, everybody sharing food, everybody coming, playing with the same kids, you know, like, but why? They kind of have to do that, right? It's not because they're better people only. There are great people there, but they have to do it to survive, and they grow a love for one another, a lot of extended family. You don't have
So
that.
you're saying that we don't have to do that in America?
Exactly, which to his point, he's actually correct here. He's just missing the point. It's not because of services. It's
Ah,
a
I
deeper
see what you're
issue of
saying.
relational, I believe. Yeah, go ahead.
4, said the cartoon dog to the other cartoon dog. And while you might think the reason American tax dollars don't fund as many services is because we pay lower taxes than other countries, that's not even true. When you add federal, state, local, and sales taxes and include other costs and services that our taxes don't cover but other countries' taxes do, like our uniquely high health insurance premiums, you'll find.
And again, we go back to the health insurance argument. So I know you want to cap it here at the tax area here. So let's do
Unless you had
that.
another specific part.
No, I like that. I like capping
Yeah,
it
yeah.
here because, again, these are the democratic socialist arguments, right? They always refer back to higher taxes actually doesn't cover what we pay. Hey, what did David Cross miss here? In that analogy right there, David Cross missed something very specific.
What was that? I got a
He
lot of
missed
thoughts. I wanna
that
see
we
what
have a national debt.
Mm.
So when you think that politicians sell it a certain way, they'll say, look, we can get this if we get higher taxes.
Yeah, yeah.
What they're really talking about is if we increase the taxes, maybe we can pay some of the debt, which they never
Yeah.
do,
Well,
They
if
just
people
add
talk
to the
about
debt.
money you don't earn, it's easy to talk about money that doesn't really belong to you, right? You're like, yeah, if you give me, it's like when people talk about, hey, if I were to have this amount of money, I'll be a millionaire. Not necessarily true, right? So with taxes,
Wow.
with taxes. Another thing with taxes is I tell people this, look, if you prove to me, if you can show me some examples how government has effectively used tax money, right, and you make a case study for that, I can be like, okay, I don't mind giving more of my money then, all right, because they don't effectively use our tax money, which leaves me with less confidence when you talk about raising taxes, right? It's not like a phenomenal business, like let's say Amazon and these companies where I'm like, yo, if you give them, if they can tax you, if you can pay $5 more on your Amazon Prime and they guarantee a few services, you know they're gonna follow through on it. So you're like,
Oh yeah.
you can cough up. I think people will pay an extra $10 for Amazon Prime. The way, you know what I'm saying? So it's just,
I'm sure a lot of people would pay $50 if they can order what they order and get it within the hour.
and
I
why?
mean,
And let me
you
tell you here before we go into this next tax. Let me tell you why they'll pay that. Because they know that if Amazon stops delivering, they can call customer service, they can cancel, another business could come up, you see, you have accountability. Government and
Right.
taxes have zero accountability. I'll leave it at that.
When one business fails, another one arises.
Yeah,
That's how it is in
city field,
America.
exactly. Yeah. What you
And
got here?
and just capping that previous video at taxes, I think it's appropriate for us to bring up the Tom Sowell clip and when he makes the argument on how the tax system should or may be most effective.
Oh, the argument is based on the belief that people will change their behavior as you change the tax rates. Those on the left often act as if human beings are just like inert blocks of wood or like chess pieces that you can move around on the chessboard to put wherever you want to carry out some grand design. But of course, people react to these things. Now, it's a theory. It's a hypothesis, and you could test it. Almost never is it tested.
And he's he's talking about he's talking about uh, the behaviors of people, that if you raise the taxes, or you bring it down, a lot of times what these people do is never consider the behaviors of people spending,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Whether you increase the taxes or not, no one addresses the behavioral aspect of spending.
Yeah, nobody does that
Draw,
kind of analysis. Yeah, good
yeah.
point.
And you brought up this point actually a few weeks ago about you can't make a one size fit all, or you can't solve money problems to a person who doesn't have good behavioral money techniques, who don't know
Mhm.
how to save money, don't know how to allocate funds, don't know how to look at these things. So, what's the point of raising taxes or bringing it down if you have a problem of people being in debt?
Correct. Yeah.
And why is that? Why do we people in America tend to have debt issues?
I'll tell you why. Because it's the only. Remember, not every country you can get a home or a credit card for $5,000 that allow you to spend what you want. When you don't have money in other countries, you go through it. You don't eat. You don't. You know what I'm saying? It's the only country where you can be at the bottom of the bottom when it comes to income and still get incredible benefits and have your fridge filled.
Wha-
You see, so there, you see all these things. That's why it's like, what are you comparing standard of living, right? Are you interviewing these people who were born in these other third world countries and looking at their life?
Well, I'm sure David Cross has traveled the world. He's an
Yeah, which
actor.
is
He's
why I
made
wonder about his perspective as well. I'm curious to know more. I'm sure he has more thoughts on that, but
right.
yeah,
And I also think that Americans are more susceptible to being in debt, not only because of what you just brought, which I think is a great point. I think Americans are susceptible to debt because look at our national debt. It
hmm
just continues to increase. And it doesn't seem like there's any consequence, Savory.
yeah,
It
I know.
seems like, oh no, we could just keep throwing more and more debt to that. We'll eventually get it. And the conservatives use the argument of like, oh, your kids are going to be worried about it. Are they? Are
Yeah,
they? Because we keep adding to the debt. No
yeah,
one's actually paying the debt.
yeah. No president has done anything about the debt, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's more from Mr. Soul here, Mr. Baritone.
People instead say, "Oh, you just want to give tax cuts to the rich."
Right. Now, you note in this booklet, brief as it is, you cover a lot of
And this is a very good book. I look, Savory and I also agree that Thomas Sowell writings are pretty dry and boring. But if you bear with it, or if you listen to it on Audible,
good audio book, yeah,
I think it's really good. And also watching these interviews,
for
I think
sure.
Mr. Peterson here, who's always interviewed Soul, helps bring to life some of the aspects of what Tom Sowell's concepts in which he's talking about. It
Right,
brings it to
right.
your life, makes it easier to understand.
ground here. You write about various times and places people have advocated this, and you know
As a side note, I think he writes like that, Savory, because he's communicating to the highest of the high, like elite level thinkers. I think that's also a reason why that's his target audience.
Well, I also think it's just the nature of the topic he's talking about. He's an economist.
Ah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like how fun can you make economics? So, I think it's just an
several in particular. Republican Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon argued for lower tax rates in the 20s. Democratic President John Kennedy argues for cuts in the tax rates in the 1960s. Republican President Ronald Reagan, lower tax rates in the 80s. And then George W. Bush lowers tax rates once again in the 2000s. 4 experiments, as it were, one by a Democrat. In each of those 4 cases, what was the effect on the economy?
So I don't know if anyone understood this question. This is really a profound question. You had 3 Republican presidents lower taxes, where you had one Democrat president increase taxes, and he wants to know what were the effects on the economy. What did it do? How did it reflect? And Tom Sowell has a thing or two to say about that.
The effect on the economy was to increase the rate of growth, increase the revenue received by the government. The rich not only paid more taxes after the tax cuts for the rich, as they call it, they paid a higher percentage of all taxes. Then this started back in the 1920s.
And obviously, he's an economist, so he's referring to labor statistics, IRS numbers. Folks, these numbers are some of them the most like think of the most populous person in our country. They post their taxes for the public to see. You could literally look at Jeff Bezos's taxes because
Yeah.
of who they are.
Hmm.
That's crazy to me, right?
Yeah.
So he gets these statistics by looking at their database. He's not getting any special access. He doesn't have to work for the IRS. He doesn't have to work for the federal government. These are all public information. Mine's is private. Savory's is private. But let's see exactly how he answers this.
In the early 20s, the tax rate on the top income was 73%.
Wow.
And the people making over $100,000 paid something like 30% of all taxes.
Wow.
By the end of the decade, the tax rate on the top had been cut to 24%. People making over 100,000 now paid 65% of all taxes. And the reason was quite simple, that when you have the tax rate at 73%, people simply don't pay it. They put their money into tax-exempt securities.
And I'm gonna cap it there because he goes in depth as to his ideology there as to when you raise taxes, you actually hurt the American economy. When you lower taxes, you actually help the revenue. And actually the rich pay more in taxes. So
Hmm.
that's why the opposite effect is actually being spoken by the Democrat Party. Oh, we have to attack them. We have to higher tax rates because they don't actually pay them. Candace Owens actually posted. Actually, forget Candace Owens. Forget Candace Owens. It was actually 50 Cent in the run for Joe Biden becoming president when he talked about higher taxes for the rich. He was reconsidering his assets.
Hmm.
And you know, Candace Owens responded to that and said, see, 50 Cent is rich enough to think that way. You and me can't think that way.
Exactly.
We have to solely depend on our finances in this country. All these rich elites, they can offshore, they can do that, and the Biden administration wants to attack that. But good luck. Good luck with
Yeah.
offshore accounts.
Yeah, and the Biden. Speaking about the Biden administration, man, I think this is something. I'll be quick on this.
Yeah.
Kind of breakdown on what's going on here is we have a psychological element when you raise taxes,
Yeah.
a cultural behavior that politicians don't take into account, right? Where you have different ways of how people respond, right? Ronald Reagan, was it Reagan? I think.
Let's see what you're going. Where are you going here?
Was he an actor before? Or was he the
He
one that?
was. He
Yeah,
was
okay.
an actor.
It was Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was paying. It got to a point where if he passed a certain amount as an actor, he needed to pay almost 90% of his income in tax. So I don't
Yep.
know what law was it, so it got to a point where he stopped working when he made a certain amount. He just didn't work, right? That's not good for the economy. That's not good for jobs. That's not good for a lot of things, right?
So
People
what's the answer is what's better for the economy? Is it higher taxes or higher revenue?
Exactly. That is the question. And right now, the Biden administration is doing two things, right? They're monitoring a lot of transactions of $600 or more for some reason, right? And the reason people think is because they have an opportunity to tax there, right? To potentially tax some people, right? The other one is they're taxing you on unrealized gains.
Mm.
Unrealized gains mean on profit you haven't took yet. So imagine you being taxed because your house is worth 50,000, but you haven't even touched that money. You're gonna touch it maybe when you retire, but you don't want to pay taxes now. He wants to tax you on unrealized gains. That goes to the stock market, and that goes to even people not making a lot of money. If you have different little investments you want to make, it'll have people become risk averse. It'll have people put money offshore. It'll have people work a certain amount of hours only. You'll change the behaviors of thousands of people. So that's the last thought on taxes there, but
I want to roll back to the whole standard of living conversation because I really think this is important.
okay.
What I notice in looking into is America the greatest country in the world? Right. I got that David Cross video. I also saw another couple of videos. I realized, Savory, and I want to get your thought on this. Why is it that when you talk, like when you have anti-American rhetoric,
Mhm.
why does that generate millions and millions of views? Just out of curiosity.
Well, that's a great question, man. I think part of it is the American dream is great, but it ain't easy. You know what I'm saying? The American dream
Oh,
offers
wow.
opportunity, but it doesn't guarantee you anything, right? So it's like everybody wants a shortcut. I think we've all felt there at a certain part of our lives where we would, we've maybe taken I've taken shortcuts, but I think we tend to.
But don't the rich elite take shortcuts?
It depends what we're talking about, right? But
Don't they rob people? Aren't
nah,
they making money off the backs
but
of?
that sounds good because it gives you a justification for maybe some of your goals, some of your lack of drive, and all that. But the point is, I think anti-American rhetoric sticks more to the American people because most people don't have that drive to realize that this is opportunity, or when they fail, to keep going. So it's like America ain't easy. It ain't easy to make it here. It's just an opportunity.
Rick Ross was being interviewed by Steve
Ross.
Harvey. Boss. He was being interviewed by Steve Harvey because Rick Ross wrote a book, and he talked about the road to getting rich
Okay.
and how he never got sleep. Rick Ross. Now he's a hustler, he did his thing in the streets and did all that. But even in that, he said, if you want to be rich in this country, you can't sleep. Don't think about sleep
Yeah.
because you got so much time to work, right? And to add to that, Mayweather was being interviewed and he said, you see, you think of things in an 8-hour time span. Me, I think of the things in a 24-hour time span. I got 24 hours to make a buck. You got 8 hours to make a buck. You see, that's why you guys don't get rich.
Yeah.
You see, there's a common thread here on how the rich elite put a lot on the line. They're working their asses off.
Like you said, they do stuff that other people aren't willing to do. Like as much as you hate Mayweather, my man's he was one of the only boxers, right? A quick interesting thought here. Quick fact. He's one of the only boxers that stays in shape all year long. So you would see him fight once a year.
All year.
He's
all year.
training 12 months out of the year. He's always jogging, he says. He's always working. So it's like he's always ready. But who's willing to put that work? Not many people. Why? You want to party, you want to do this, which is okay. But that's what life would give you.
Not even athletes in his realm do that.
Yeah.
When he fought Ricky Hatton was 40 pounds overweight when he signed the contract. When he signed a contract to fight Mayweather. So when he went into training camp, he had to now work on making weight. Mayweather's already made weight. All he now has to do is focus on fighting you.
Yep.
How are you going to beat a man like that? How are you going to beat a man like that? So
what you got
just
for
to
us?
kind of talk about the back to the anti-American. I wouldn't say she's anti-American. I would say that she brought up some interesting points about living abroad for 15 years and how she related that, and when she came back to America, as a form of culture shock. And here's what she defines as culture shock back in America.
This is just replacing the stuff that you already had. One of the biggest things I've noticed, though, is the price of everything. Like, it really is more expensive to live in the US than most countries. Even in Florida, which is a tax-free state when it comes to state income taxes, and we have a lower cost of living than a lot of other states, things are still really expensive here. Like, it's quite easy for me to spend more money on rent than my entire cost of living per month in Croatia or Portugal or Costa Rica.
So look at the countries that she's comparing America to. Croatia, Portugal. Now, the standard of living, again, I'm not going to shit on these countries. I've never been there. I'm sure they're beautiful. I'm sure they have a lot to contribute. But you're comparing apples to oranges. Am I right, Savory?
Yeah. Again, yeah. The question is, I don't know what's in her mind. I know this is a long video. We're playing a few minutes, but I'm wondering.
She's got millions of views on this. Millions. And I looked at some of her videos.
Yeah.
This is the only video that she went viral on.
Yeah. So I'm just curious on what she means, like what resonated with her, because at the end of the day, cost of living doesn't tell me much, right? So for example, if you tell me the cost of living in India is $5 a month, right, but you don't have nearly any of the luxuries, the freedoms, it's almost like, why am I going to care for cost of living? And the average job there pays $1 a month. So but the cost of living is only $5. You see, so it's like you got to weigh it out with opportunity, chances, and you know what I'm saying, like, so it's just so much to this conversation, which I really can't jump on board with her. because at the end of the day, I have so many questions, because at the end of the day, it's not about cost of living, but it's about the opportunity, right? If you're able, if what she's talking about, she can rent a place for $1,000, $2,000, right? Which is very expensive, right? But at the same time, look around and think to yourself, in what other country can 100,000 people in a community afford this rent? You know what I'm saying? They can afford it for a reason. Take people from other countries, they can't afford it, right? So it's like the last thing here, like I told you before, we can't think about opportunity when we go to another country with the frame of the dollar bill,
Right.
right? So that's where it becomes difficult. Right now, when we send money to let's say Dominican Republic, and when we send money to like Dominican Republic and other places, for example, you know
Right.
how far they can take $20 in those countries? And if I go there, I'm gonna live like a king. So I'm gonna think the cost of living here is too high. But at the end of the day, I'm getting dollars. If I can find a way to get dollars abroad, yeah, you live like a king, but that's not always the case, you know?
Yeah. So I wanted to continue seeing what she has to say here because I think she makes some other comparisons here.
Rica. Like my rent while living abroad has been anywhere from 150 euro per month living in Bulgaria to like maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a month in a place like Australia or Japan or Hong Kong. But in the US, like in my neighborhood, just looking around for like a 1-bedroom unfurnished apartment in a nice area of Miami is like easily $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And then on top of that, you have hundreds of dollars in your electricity bill and your internet. I pay
She makes a great, I wouldn't say great. She makes an interesting point here, Savory. Tune into this.
more for just utilities here than I spent renting a 4-bedroom house in a vineyard in Montenegro. And for what I pay for,
She said she pays more in utilities, Wi-Fi and utilities, than she pays for a 4-bedroom apartment in Montenegro. Now I know. Look, when I hear,
Where's that at? Montenegro.
I have no clue off the top of my head. I'm just
Oh,
going to
okay.
be
Yeah, go ahead.
100% honest. But again, when you're comparing that to a place in the world, it's easily able to like associate. Like I would be sold. Oh yeah, yo, that's crazy. 4 bedrooms. I know utility. That's just utility. I'm not living in my utilities. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
you're comparing that to a 4-bedroom apartment. Again, I don't know what the standard of living in Montenegro is. So easily she'll win this argument. Right? We did no research on this. But at the end of the day, you're comparing apples to oranges in some regard because again, standard of living in America has its own reasons, and that could be political, it could be competitive pricing, it could be a whole bunch of things that we can't just easily just sidestep and say, oh yeah, let's just compare it from this to this. No, first off, you're not comparing apartment to apartment. You're comparing utilities to an apartment. Does Montenegro have Wi-Fi? Do they have the kind of Wi-Fi we do? Do they have Verizon Fios? Do they have an electric company that provides power and solar energy? In America, we have so many competitive energy markets, and
Yeah,
it
too
could
many
be either
unanswered questions, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, again, it just leads us down a rabbit hole that I'm curious as to why people flock to these videos. Savory, why are people in the masses flocking to these kinds of subjects, specifically anti-American rhetoric?
Yeah, again, I think what I initially said is just seems easy, right? Or sounds good, but at the end of the day, the American values lived out takes effort, takes time, you know. So
All right, so let's do a quick pivot. Bill Maher on his latest episode here on his show, he talks about, well, he taps into the whole argument of Dave Chappelle and him being quote unquote transphobic. If you were born under a rock, that was a hot news on Dave Chappelle's stand up as he
Netflix.
talks about the trans community. and he had a few things to say about that. But Bill Maher and company has a few things to respond about, especially the how they took it. Here's what he has to say.
Words have meaning, but not anymore. And when I hear transphobic, phobic has a meaning, fear. I'm not transphobic if I merely disagree with you. It's not hate. I mean, here's what one of the reactions from someone who worked at Netflix said, "This is not an argument with two sides." Well, right away you lost me. It is an argument with trans people who want to be alive and people who don't want us to be. Well, that's just ridiculous.
You see those hyperboles like that? This is what makes people feel guilty or vote a certain way when it comes to emotions and stuff, because you know
It's drastic.
Other side, yeah, you make a drastic claim of this. This is, again, I hate to connect it with this, but it's just reminding me of this. This is how they pull strings when it comes to voting time, right? When it comes to a certain topic that they want to hit on you, right, to make you feel a certain way, right? Because right now what they're doing is if you disagree with them, then you don't care about the community and you want them to die. So how hard is to have a basic conversation when the other side thinks that if you have any critique, you want to kill them? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's, or if you standing on the side of the others, that means you're a part of the problem.
Yeah, so you know,
You're either for us or against us. And
Cool.
again, Bill Maher has a lot more to say to this.
Dave Chappelle does not want you to not be alive.
Amen.
It's just, and
amen to that. Like, come on.
you know,
Well,
you're not
amen.
automatically right if you're trans. You're completely equal. You're just not automatically right. And it doesn't behoove everybody to get their mind around very new changes. I mean, we were boy and girl for a very long time. It's only been.
So,
Yo, they don't know what to do with this man because he's on the left, but I love how he's challenging some of the stuff with radical Islam and stuff, like, you know, like he has
Bill
a lot.
Maher,
They don't know what to do with this man. I'm proud of him.
what I said is that Bill Maher is the epitome of the very quote that Ronald Reagan said when they asked him, "Why did you leave the left?
Yeah.
Why did you leave the Democrat Party?" And you know what Reagan said? He said, "I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me." So does this mean, when you look at Bill Maher, does this in fact mean that the progressive left is leaving a lot of people behind in this country?
Yeah, the progressive left is like I'll still consider him left, but he's not extreme by any means. He's just a moderate. He's the only like mainstream guy that I can think of that's generally that I believe is a moderate, reasonable left.
Does he really believe all of this, or does he know that there are 80 million Americans that are conservative and he wants to tap into that market?
I think he does, because he's always been consistent for years before this culture. Like he's always been pretty sensible to me, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he's been pretty sensible. Even when I disagree with him, he's one of the few people that I can be like, okay, I like how you articulated that. Reasonable argument. So that's my take. But it could be what you're saying, you know, but yeah.
10 years since, how long have we had gay marriage? You know, I mean, talking about the Democratic voter, I'm sure there's a guy in Ohio going, I just got on board with gay marriage. Could you give me a minute? This idea that we're not any gender when we're born.
He's referring to the major case that happened there. I forgot what it was called. The Supreme Court justice ruled over a case in Ohio. And I'm not even going to get into specifics of that, but that was pretty clever that he did that, because he's involving that case as to why gay marriage was approved and why it's legal now. It happened based in Ohio.
Born is very new and very radical. That you're born is just jump ball.
But
You have a penis. It could mean you're a boy, but that's that's a very new idea, and I'm not sure I'm down with all of it, and I don't have.
Oh,
be.
wait. I almost cut that too soon right there. Hold on.
You see, that's good. You see, he always done that.
You have a penis. It could mean you're a boy, but that's that's a very new idea, and I'm not sure I'm down with all of it, and I don't have to be.
But Dave wasn't.
Wow.
That's real. You know, I
He
respect
prepared to be canceled, Bill Maher.
Nah, but they can't. He said stuff like this before. It's hard to cancel that man too.
He
Like,
said,
that's
"I
why,
don't have to be on board with everything." That's what he said. I don't have to be on board with everything.
yeah, you don't. But they convince you with that rhetoric and hyperbolic hyperbole and kind of like these ideas of like extreme notions. If you don't agree with me, you're just a trans. If you think I shouldn't do this, it just means that you are an extremist on the other side. Like those things are driving a lot of Americans away from what you said earlier, the progressive extreme logical kind of like they want to be logical, they say, but it's driving
Yeah, I
people.
think they're just pushing people a bit too far.
Yeah,
And they,
it won't
I'm
stop.
sure they're gonna look and see. Okay, listen, they stopped the defunding police rhetoric. They knew that that wasn't helping their party.
Yeah,
There was a lot of infighting over that. That got exposed. So again, you have to be sensible and you have to do this in increments, right? You can't just defund the police. What are you going to replace it with, right?
yeah, it was a
Can
bad
we imagine
strategic
a
move.
world? Could we imagine a world without police? Maybe, maybe
No, I
in a
don't-
more utopian society, sure,
yeah.
but you can't get there overnight, right, Savory?
Yeah. That's a good point. Again, that was
So
a bad strategic move when it comes to bad political move when it comes to getting an idea push, right? You got to spoon feed people slowly, all right? So yeah,
here's something that I feel is a nice pivot here. Obama had a few things to say that I'm not sure why this is not making headlines, but of course, Obama gets the free pass because, again, as Shelby Seal said, he made a handshake agreement with the whites in this country, as they won't put his, they won't leverage his skin over him, and he won't hold their past rhetoric over them. That whole great exchange. If you want to know what I'm talking about, Shelby Steele wrote a book called White Guilt, and he's talking about the Obama paradigm and him becoming president in this country. But here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I would assume, Terry, if they think they've got better ideas, why don't they just go make the case? Tell us your ideas. Tell us why you think they're going to be better. Tell us how it's going to help that man get a job or help that young person go to college or help that person get a trade. Hey, just explain it. And if you've got good ideas, people will flock to your ideas, but that's not what they try to do. Instead, you're trying to rig elections.
Instead, what you're trying to do is you're trying to rig elections. I want to say that one more time. Instead, what you're trying to do, you're trying to rig elections. Where have we heard that word rigged from?
very own Trump.
Trump said this is a rigged election. And what was that? This conspiracy. The fact checkers came out. Everyone was out. Oh, this is factually impossible. Theoretically, there's no way that there could be a massive fraud and all this stuff at a massive scale. But here you have President Obama, former President Obama, saying that they'd rather not communicate their ideas because people will disagree with them. So instead, what they rather do is rig elections. That is a high accusation. Am I right? So my
It's a,
question to you,
it's a brilliant idea what they're doing. But yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
my question is, are Republicans indeed trying to rig elections? Just curious.
Trying to rig elections? Maybe.
How?
Threw you off with my answer. All right. So I believe, first of all, I don't know a lot about this. When I say I don't know a lot, there's too much unknowns. But the Democrats are hiding more things, and I believe some of the Republicans' response is going to be to also rig elections. But to answer your question, I don't think they're really leading the way in rig. I believe both sides have their hand in it, but I think the dominant side is the Democratic Party in rigging elections. The reason I think that is because you're preventing a lot of digging into the 2020 election, right? You refuse to let judges dig deeper. Courts don't move forward. Cases don't get presented. So I do believe the bigger hand is I believe the Democrats have a more intricate system when it comes to control and rigging elections. I would put it like that.
In reading a lot of the liberal media news articles on their websites like CNN, MSNBC, even looking at some of the things like the New Yorker or the New York Times or Washington Post, they expressed at the beginning of the year, they expressed how dangerous it is to talk about election fraud and how things may have been quote unquote rigged. And what was their argument? This could damage the integrity of elections. If we talk about this, if we even investigate this, if we look deep, not only would this give advantages to our counterparts, but this will communicate people not trusting our election process, people losing faith in the integrity of our election process. But how does that go out of the window now all of a sudden, where your former president, a duly elected president, now says instead they're trying to rig elections? So
Yeah.
this does not, and this is, for me, you're telling me one thing but doing another. Once again, these what politicians are good for. You tell me one thing, but you actually do another. You argue one thing, but you actually live an argument from the other side of the coin. You don't live up to these values. If you really care about the integrity of our elections, you wouldn't bring this conversation up. This wouldn't be a talking point.
So
You
you
would
want him
leave
to
this
not
alone.
talk about this?
No, because again, every member in his party were talking about how no, we can't talk about this stuff because we have to raise the faith of the integrity of our
Oh yeah,
elections.
but that's just politics. You know that was just politics. They're saying that because they don't want you to talk about it because the odds are stacked against them. You know what I'm saying? So they know they would look bad if they go deeper, which is why they're stopping every single case and
But
investigation.
they forget the people in this country that think of things holistically.
Yeah.
They forget this. Then we're not a minority way of thinking. We literally will follow you. You said, but you said this in the beginning of the year. How does
Mhm.
that go out of the window now when you're trying to campaign for someone in Virginia? You thought I wasn't going to catch that. I caught that. That doesn't make sense to me. Obama
Yeah.
was one of the voices that talked about the integrity of our elections. And what he's talking about here is in reference to some of the election laws that were changed in Georgia, some of the election laws that were changed maybe in Texas, in
Mhm.
Florida, and some of these big red states. Why? Because they don't want the shenanigans to happen what has happened in
Exactly.
2020.
But
Now,
again,
you can call it again. The argument that people were making was that now blacks are disproportionately affected in Georgia, like Atlanta, from even electing. We're back at Chuck Schumer quoted it as Jim Crow 2.0. You got to be out of your freaking bird to say such an accusation as that, and you better be well read on some of the changes that Georgia actually made. Because nowhere in that bill that I read, and I
but
skimmed through it, but nowhere in that bill that I read that blacks couldn't vote.
let me tell you something. You're missing something. You're missing something big, I think. This is politics, macho. So you got to understand, you don't have to be well read. They know that what they're spewing, 90% of their followers um, and the people who follow them and believe in them, they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Their constituents, right? Are following their every step. Most people are not reading bills. That's just reality. Most people are not looking deeper into issues. So when you tell person, or you got to just play this political back and forth game. He rigged the election. I rigged the election. He rigged. So you can just
It's a
point
pointing
fingers
of the
to politics.
finger.
So he's just pointing the fingers, knowing that unfortunately he has one of the most faithful followings. So people who love Obama are not going to question what he just said. That's just the reality. You see,
He's
so you got
God.
yeah. So to these
He's
people,
God.
and
Yeah.
Trump has those kind of followers as well, to be honest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So which is
And
what makes them
and I
ultimately
want to talk about that. I actually want to talk about that in a future broadcast. How dangerous is it to look at a politician as they're not? They're human.
mm-hmm. By
They're
the way,
constraints there.
I know what would unite this country. I know the solution. I'm the
What
only
is
one that
this?
knows the solution. I'm sure there's other people, but I you know what you have to do? And then we'll end with this last clip on election integrity. But you know what we have to do here? Imagine this for a second. Walk with me through this journey. Imagine Obama and Trump having an interview together, fleshing out ideas about America, where they stand, shaking hands at the end. You know how much that would unite the country? You know who would hate that? Russia would hate it. China would hate that. That would unite America in such a force that you will not understand. But would it happen? Likely not. The chances are extremely low, right? Maybe 1%. But that would unite America. Why? Because you have two ideological, those are the leaders of the parties. However, people want to look at, I don't care what you think about, Obama's still the leader of the Democratic Party and Trump is still the leader of the Republican Party. Unfortunately, this is just reality. If them two sit together, you know the power that America has and what they're going to show the world. I think I got a pretty good solution. It won't solve the problem, but trust me, it was the beginning of unity in many ways.
It would definitely make our foreign adversaries shake, is what you're saying.
Yes. Wow. I think that would be.
And I'm curious, do you think that should Trump just like, let down his pride and ask for an interview like that?
The thing is, it's not about Trump. I think it's about both. I don't think Obama would do it either. Obama has just as much pride. He just doesn't show it. But Obama has a lot of pride too, man. He looks at himself as the man, just how Trump does. Trump is just more New York and vocal about it. But Obama got a lot of swag and pride to who he is. He's going to use the excuse of I can't sit in front of a man like that. Trump, I would say, will probably be more willing than Obama. I would actually say the opposite. Trump will be more willing, but I think he'll be hesitant too. But yeah. Anyways,
I see what you're saying.
That's quick thoughts there. I think that would change. But talking about election integrity, I do want to play this clip of Project Veritas and the undercover journalism that went and what they exposed from the New Jersey governor Murphy's campaign. All right, what we got here? Man.
Lo va a hacer, pero no podía hacerlo antes de la elección. The independent deciders would not vote for him if he did the banding. Because they're into all that my rights, my
All right. We can't do the mandates because we're in the middle of an election. Why? Because they're all into this shit. My rights, my shit, we're on. There's a lot of people in Jersey, the independents, and some people on the right who would be against this, she's saying, and she's trying to get independent votes. By the way, this is not just anybody from the campaign. Look at the name. This is the senior advisor for Phil Murphy. So this is a senior person in her campaign telling you the strategy that as soon as he wins, what he's going to do, if he wins, hopefully he loses and we get a crazy victory. But if he wins, he's going to roll out all these mandates like no tomorrow. Check this out.
Once we have a win, it's like, all right, guns blazing, like who cares? I'm in it. Let's do the mandates. Let's do this, the next one.
Project Veritas has obtained hidden camera recordings inside Governor Phil Murphy's campaign, including from a senior advisor who admits to hiding information from voters until after the election in order to appeal to undecided and moderate voters.
Pero ¿cómo así los mandates? La vaccine mandates. Como California, que está el mandato que todo el mundo tiene que tener la vacuna. Lo va a hacer, pero no podía hacerlo antes de la elección.
He's going to do it. You see how politics work? This is the story of the Democratic agenda here. I'll do it when I get elected. Don't tell them what we really want to do until we get elected.
Yeah, the sole purpose, the sole focus, and this is what we want to, portray to everyone out there, that don't be so easily susceptible to believing these politicians, period. I'm a conservative, but I will not believe a person who's running for office until I really see where their track record is. Where were they led? Where did they do? That's why their history is so important. Look, I agree with the DNC in pulling up Trump's history because I believe in accountability. It should all be laid out there, but don't be irrational and judge the man based on stuff that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. Let's be rational and see the growth. Let's look at everything. Let's put everything on the table and see. All right, for example, Savory, they brought up the Trump the betting place. I forgot where the casino is in in Jersey. There's a casino spot in Jersey,
Atlantic City.
Atlantic City. They keep bringing up that thing, but they don't realize that that was 30 years ago. Has he been in a similar situation since?
Well, they do realize this is politics. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
these people are smart. You know?
But that's what we want to do. We want to provide the platform for folks to say, "Hey, look, we're not associated to a person as if they're God. We're going to vote based on what we look at, and we're going to weigh those pros and cons, and we're going to actually have that on a broadcast where we look at the pros and cons to a candidate, how to examine that, what's better for the state, where's the state's currently at, where's the state of our country, what would we rather need? Because there are times, Savior, I'm going to be honest with you, where I feel, okay, you know what? I think the balance of having a liberal run the country would actually help if we've had a strong foundation of conservatism. For example, from Bush to Obama, there was a good transfer there. But I think it kind of went in a bad direction. I think Obama's first term was the appropriate term. And I think he took a very strong turn, a pivot to the far left in his second term. And we can talk about that ad nauseum. But what we wanted to do here is, as always, look at these different types of clips, examine some of these things that are said, some of the catchphrases that we hear in our politics, some of the catchphrases we hear in culture. Why are certain things generating views? Why is anti-American rhetoric? I'm okay with criticism. No one's outside of criticism. Just because you say you live in the greatest country in the world doesn't mean you're absent of any faults, right? You're going to be subject to criticism because that's where accountability comes. But what I'm concerned with is when I hear about how good America is and how good America is to the world, how that gets less views on social media. Well, when I hear anti-American rhetoric, that gets a lot more views. I mean, it goes viral every single time. Look at it. Test me on it. You guys will see it all throughout the internet. You will see anti-American rhetoric and how it just, flows like a forest fire. So we wanted to cover a variety of things, as we always do, comment on these things because, again, we're nobodies. We're taking a shot in the dark at these experts. We're examining these things because at the end of the day, we want to know which way to vote. We want to know what's best and how we should live our lives. Is a conservatism approach a better approach? Is liberalism, is a happy medium the best approach? Watch us and bear with us through some of these topics because we're going to flesh this out together. So again, thank you for joining us on this evening, this happy Tuesday. I hope it's happy. I hope you got to enjoy a drink with us. I hope you got a chance to really think about and flesh through some of these things. We'll be right back here doing another live broadcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tell them where to find us, Savory.
What up, everyone? You already know. Follow us on the main account YouTube channel, Drinks with a Nobody, where we want you to hit the subscribe button, join us in conversation, and really just have some fun with us every day, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Additional, to catch us separately on our platforms, you got us on Twitch. We got Macho Fix 88, Savory Edition. That's my handle everywhere. We got his handle on Twitter, Macho Fix 88, and mine's at Savory Edition. And catch me on TikTok, same username, Savory Edition. And again, like Macho said, thank you for joining us. We're doing this every single night, having some fun, having some good conversation. At the end of the day, we want you to join us where we're cheering up to some drink, but no last calls.
That's right. That's what we believe in here on Drinks with a Nobody.
Cheers.
There are no last calls, so keep the conversation going. Until tomorrow, adios.